It's beady. So, there was a comment asking me to go into the different procedures that you can do for phalloplasty, which is surgical penis enlargement. I thought that was an interesting topic, so I started researching. But as I began to research, it became an ever-increasing script. As of right now, this script is about 2,000 words. So, I am only going to be talking about length in this video. I will get to girth in another one. But before we get into it, I have a Patreon where you can support me. I try to write 1 to 2 posts a month. That is a curation of my Reddit posts and trying to make it as streamlined as possible for you to do my methods of penis enlargement. Then we have Leviathan Sups, where you can get Vigor, our best bang for your buck, stimulant-free, nitric oxide boosting pre-workout. That is a mouthful. But essentially what we did is we took a bunch of supplements known for blood flow enhancement, nitric oxide boosting, that's part of blood flow, and then cellular volume enhancing to give you massive pumps in the gym and potentially elsewhere, if you catch my drift. So you can check that out at leviathansups.com or get it through Amazon Prime in the United States right now, that is. So then we have Peak Male Physique, where I sell penis enlargement aids that are not needed that can help. Okay, all my little sponsors are over. Where were we? Oh, one more thing. Like and subscribe. I suck at telling you people to do that. Moving on. Penis enlargement surgery is an ever-growing market due to the rise of internet porn, causing men to think they are small when they are really not. And on top of that, these procedures continue to get more refined, therefore there are better outcomes. Some background on me. I go by BD. I teach natural penis enlargement. So essentially, I say if you stretch on your dick every day for a year, you can put on a sizable amount of length. If you cause overexpansion of your penis for a year, you can see a sizable change in girth. I am vastly oversimplifying it, but in my experience, it is quite possible to increase the size of your penis without needing to go through surgery. My entire channel is based on that. So look around my channel, see what tickles your fancy. And I know I did a video explaining the efficacy of penis enlargement. Essentially, there are biological rules that prove penis enlargement works. The gist is, I started about 6 inches at 16, and then I am 26 now. I am just under 9 inches in length, and then for girth, I was about 5 inches. I'm now about 6¼ inches. This was over a 10-year period where I wasn't always doing PE, but yes, in my experience, it definitely works. Now, a lot of these doctors are gonna say what I'm saying is a lie or a scam. That's fine, but remember, they are going to be trying to shine their product in the best light possible, so you spend as much as a car on your penis. If you want to go ahead and do that, by all means, it's your money. But I just want to look out for you and show you that there are different, much cheaper methods that you can do if you're willing to put in the time. Anyway, this is the point where I become unbiased and just explain the methods behind penis enlargement surgery for length. I might get more biased at the end as I explain my recommendations. But anyway, moving on. The bad news is that there is no surefire way to gain erect length. And okay, let me rephrase. There is no surefire way to gain erect length that does not have massive complications along with it, and I'll touch more on that near the end of the video. But essentially, all the doctors do is take your existing tissue and then stretch it out as much as they can. But first, we are going to talk about the most rudimentary form of phalloplasty, and that is the release of the suspensory ligaments. A bit of anatomy first, just so you understand what I'm talking about. Your penis inserts to your pelvis, all right? About 4 to 6 inches. On top of your penis, where it meets the pelvis, there are 2 ligaments. We normally just call those suspensory ligaments, but there is the fusiform ligament, which cradles the sides of the shaft so it can't pitch left to right that easily. And then there's the suspensory ligament proper, which keeps it from just dangling down. And then there's a minor one. Doesn't really matter for the sake of the video. So the fusiform ligament cradles the outside, keeping you from flopping left and right all the time. And then the suspensory ligament keeps you from bouncing up and down. If these ligaments are extremely tight, then your penis is going to ride very close to your pelvis, hiding some of the length that you have. Actually, it would hide the typical man's length about 2 centimeters or an inch in most cases. Also, side tangent. Sometimes your penis will pitch left or right when you're erect. That's completely normal, and that's when one of the heads of the fusiform ligament are tighter than the other. So literally, if you just pull on it the other way, 5 minutes a day for like 6 weeks, it'll straighten out. Anyway, so if we can cause a structural change to these ligaments, we can cause the penis that sits close to the pelvis to extend outwards, causing you to appear longer, and then potentially change your usable length. Is that enlargement? Not really, but if you're able to push another inch into your partner during penetration, then what's the difference, right? Now, it is very hard to tell how much you can gain through this method, as it depends on the shape of your pubic bone, how tight your suspensory ligament is, and fusiform ligaments, and how deep your penis actually goes into you. And it also depends on how your surgeon dissects, or is it vivisect? I'm not a medical guy, I'm a software engineer. Anyway, it depends on how deeply they release the suspensory ligament. If it's just a partial release, you're going to get a less dramatic change, but you'll also have less complications. And additionally, surgeons sometimes pair this with something called monsplasty, and that's when they remove the pubic fat to make your penis appear even bigger, therefore exposing more length, therefore making your erection appear longer and have more usable length. This will almost always have a dramatic effect on your flaccid length, as there's just more to show. So it's anywhere from 2 to 5 centimeters usually in flaccid length. That'd be about 1 to 2 inches. And then, like I said before, there is no actual change in length for your erect size, but your usable length changes. And again, depending on your own body's morphology, it will depend on how much of a difference it makes. Now, this does have some drawbacks. 1, loss in erection angle. Some of you, this might be a very good thing because your penis might be sitting very close to your hip, therefore pointing straight up, making anything but like missionary very difficult. But for most guys, they will lose a bit of erection angle rigidity. So it'll be harder to grind against the erogenous zones on a woman, for example. And I'm assuming the same thing for men. This does not always happen, and it's not always dramatic. It largely depends on how good your surgeon is, if I'm going to be honest, and your own body. And remember, there's still tissues connecting your penis to your body. So it's not going to completely fall off, but there should be a decent change. And if anything, the most noticeable effect is how floppy your erection is. So if you bounce up and down a lot, it's going to move a lot more than before. Second downside is there will be a visible scar right above your penis. That is probably one of the main ways to make it look like you have work done, right? The visible scar would depend mostly on how good your surgeon is at suturing you back up and how well you heal afterwards. It is not necessarily because of the procedure itself, but your surgeon's skill and your own body's tendency for scar tissue. Some people will have a very tiny scar. Some people will have this big red gaping scar. Well, wouldn't it be gaping? But you get my point. 3, the penis can actually reattach to the pubic bone because your body's still going to try to heal after this trauma. If you're not constantly keeping it from retethering, it's going to reconnect. And then you might actually lose size because of this, because that fibrosis is going to actually be stronger than the ligament was originally. That's like, when an athlete tears its ACL, it usually heals stronger after surgery because the body's compensating for that trauma. The same thing happens in your pelvis with your penis if you don't follow the correct post-operative procedures. Now, some doctors will actually insert a small silicone insert to keep your penis from touching your pelvis, to keep the ligaments from reforming, essentially. So again, it comes down to your own doctor's procedure and post-care on how severe this can be. And then in some cases, loss of erection quality happens because that tissue is now compromised. You might be putting pressure somewhere downstream, causing less erection quality. And then in rare cases, this can cause penile atrophy because lack of blood supply is not good for any tissue. So keep that in mind. And again, that comes down to skill of surgeon more than anything. So there have been a few advancements, like I touched on before. The drop in angle largely depends on your body's morphology and then how deeply they release these ligaments. They don't have to do a full release. If they do a full release, you're gonna have a much more dramatic effect on the erection angle, most likely. And then doctors can limit scarring by the way they suture up at the end. The most common way now is to do an XY pubic plasty, which is just making two different skin flaps and then folding them over each other, sewing it back up. And in the United States, sorry the rest of the world, but I'm a bloody American, filthy American, whatever. The cost from this procedure can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000. In my opinion, if you pay more than $10,000 for this, that is price gouging. And a lot of times, these procedures are bundled together for discounts. Okay, next up, silicone implants. Now, this is more likely to cause erect length gains than the release of the suspensory ligament, but it's not for the reason you think. Essentially, all the surgeon does is make a silicone implant, much like a breast implant, and make an incision either at the base of your penis or scrotum, ball sack, and then insert the silicone sleeve, wrap it down, have it press up against the head, and that's the end. They sew you back up, that's that. You'll be down for probably about 6 weeks. You won't be able to do any strenuous activity for 2 weeks. The biggest brand is Pneuma by Dr. Elist. Elist got into some heat with the California Medical Board over the Pneuma implant a few years ago, but more doctors are using the Pneuma implant, so it does not seem to have slowed the adoption process at all. Pneuma claims that you can gain 1 to 2 inches of erect length, but this is not new tissue. What they are doing is taking your penis, stretching out as far as they can already, slapping a silicone implant in it so it can't shrink, so you're permanently a shower. That's probably a benefit to a lot of you guys. But essentially, it is beholden to how stretchy your current tissue is. So some guys will be able to stretch only 1/2 inch, some guys will be able to stretch 2 inches, and then they will make the mold based on that length. And obviously, this has some more severe side effects than the suspensory ligament release because it is more, I would say, inserting a foreign body into your body is more invasive infection because it's a foreign body. Your body just might not adapt to it correctly. And obviously, there's more room for error when you're inserting something that's 5, 6, 7 inches long into your body than doing a slight incision with a surgical scalpel. Anyway, the implant can move. It is not like glued onto you. So that means it can flip, and that means it can become very uncomfortable. Apparently it's an easy fix, but again, that's something you have to worry about. And because the implant can move, it can also slide up and jab your glands. And just imagine something jabbing the backside of your glands where all your nerves meet. That sounds exceedingly painful. Now, the implant can also poke through the skin. Essentially, during the healing process, some fiber or scar tissue builds up around the seams of the implant, which will keep it from moving a bit, but that also keeps it from rubbing against the skin. If those fail to form, it will eventually rub its way out of the skin. I've seen pictures of this on Thunder's Place. My God, I'll talk about it at the end. Okay. Loss in sensation because your skin's tighter, and this could potentially cause issues with your nerves because one, your skin's tighter, therefore less ruffling, and that's part of the arousal response in men. And then, let's see, You must be circumcised from my understanding. Because again, if you insert something that is 1 to 2 inches thicker than you already are, this is predominantly for girth, by the way, it is going to basically cause instant phimosis. So, phimosis is when the skin gets too tight around the glands, causing them not to be able to come out of the foreskin. The cost for this name brand silicone implant is $16,000 to $18,000. My new car back in 2019 was $18,000 after incentive. So, spend your money wisely. I'm not gonna go there just yet. Now, time to talk about the real horror show. This is the riskiest procedure that I have come across. That is riskiest procedure in a medical setting. I've seen some fucked up shit online, let me tell you. But we are talking some huge risk, nerve damage, mutilation, loss of penis, and even death is possible with this surgery. So do not take this lightly. This is called elongating circular choroplasty. And since it's so risky, it's one of the only guaranteed ways to gain erect length. Typically 1 to 2 inches of erect length, 2 to 4 centimeters. First, your doctor skins your penis. Yes. Then your doctor will cut your corpus cavernosum to basically allow more stretch later on. He does not cut the corpus spongiosum, as that holds the urethra, and that is much harder to heal, and you do not want a cut in your urethra. He then adds tissue grafts. It was not specified what kind of tissue graft he was using in this procedure to fill in the space that he created. He then sews you back up, puts your penis back into its wrapping of skin, and that's that. I could not find much on downtime or cost. It's going to probably be at least 6 weeks before you can get into any state of arousal. And then cost, since it is such a risky procedure, I'm assuming very few surgeons will disclose that unless you are a viable candidate for it. And on the note of selective patients, I would assume this would only be for men with macrophallus that cannot be treated with hormone replacement therapy. And then men that need total reconstruction due to mutilation accidents, for example. Obviously, I do not recommend that one in the slightest. Anyway, moving on. And then there can be combination procedures and specialty methods. Dr. Loria in Miami has developed something called LEEP, but I have not found much customer feedback in it, but he goes into pretty good detail on explaining what he's doing. So, essentially, LEEP is the release of the suspensory ligaments and then adding a small silicone sleeve that is thinner than the pneuma sleeve to elongate your shaft. Since the sleeve is not as hefty as pneumas, there's much less risk of complications. I wouldn't say much less, but there's just less, okay? Now, Loria claims 1 to 2 inches in length is possible with this method. To me, which seems reasonable based on the stuff I've seen. Now remember, none of this is actually new tissue. It is just exposing current tissue and then maximizing the length of existing tissue. And disclaimer, I have no stake with Loria. It's just that his website is one of the few that I've actually seen clearly lays out the procedures he does and what the prices are for it. So I have some respect for it. It'll probably come up again. They'll actually definitely come up again with my video on girth augmentation. Also, any name drop that I do is not a testament to them or a detriment to them. It is just me telling you where I found this information. So after all of that, there is no 100% way to gain erect length from any method of surgeries. And they can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. If you're looking for more anecdotal evidence, and if you are very serious about getting penis enlargement surgery, there is a board called falloboards.info, which is dedicated to surgical enhancement. I pulled some of my information there, particularly the side effects and the satisfaction rate from these procedures. So I highly suggest you check it out if you're still curious about surgery after all of this. Now, time for my opinion. First thing, I would not in my life get the pneuma implant. I have seen traumatizing photos of it poking through the skin. This is what Elis got in trouble for originally. Its success rate and satisfaction rate. Also, that price is way too high. If we compare it to silicone breast implants, those cost about $5,000 to $10,000 if you go to a good surgeon. It should probably be on par with that because it's that simple of a procedure. I guess simple is again, relative term, but so X-nay on the implant for me. Now, the release of suspensory ligaments probably won't do much for most men, but in certain circumstances, it could actually be a huge benefit. Again, if you have super tight ligaments, it would be very helpful. Again, if you're seeking erect length gains, this is going to be not the best way to go about it. And this is why it has such a poor reputation, is because doctors say, yeah, you'll get longer erect, but then the client comes back 6 months later pissed off because they didn't gain any erect length. But he's like, you gained an appearance of more erect length, but it wasn't usable in his, Anyway, also these patients probably have some form of body dysmorphia. So if they still don't feel like they look big, they're gonna be dissatisfied with the surgery. The suspensory ligament thing is something I might consider in the future for myself, as your boy has a big pelvis and strong ligaments, so there might actually be something in my benefit for it. As for the combination procedure that was LEAP, there is not enough evidence for it to be worth my consideration at this time, but some of you guys are probably more risk tolerant when it comes to surgeries and stuff like that, or more impatient, so maybe it might be worth yours. I recommend, before any of you guys consider surgery, is first get your hormones checked to make sure you do not have a stunted growth from puberty. Now, the first sign would be having microphallus, so a penis below 3.5 inches long, I think. And then another way you could tell is like how sparse your body hair is and facial hair is compared to your peers. So if the cause is actually hormonal, stunted puberty, that is curable. And I would highly suggest going that route first. In the past year, 2 years, I've seen 3 to 4 accounts of hormone replacement therapy causing penises to fully develop later on in life. And I'm talking men that are upwards of 30, 35 years old. My subreddit was r/getting bigger, if I did not say that. Number 2, do traction therapy, particularly the methods I teach on r/getting bigger, as this will equate to real tissue over time, that in 1 to 3 years, if you still want more, you can come back and consider phalloplasty. Now, the added benefit is that a lot of this stuff teaches your tissue to be more flexible. So your stretched length will be much greater after 1 to 3 years of stretching it, just like any other flexibility test. But at the very least, you'll have better outcomes if you just get that tissue as flexible as possible before you go in and add a sleeve, for example. And now, this is my opinion. Surgery should be the last option for any man, because I firmly believe that 99% of men can gain length through just traction therapy and overexpansion, so using an extender and a pump, for example, if they adhere to a routine over the course of 6 to 12 months. The best part is that this is infinitely cheaper. My main length device cost $30 and I gained over an inch with it. Practice your patience, work on your discipline, and just try my methods first. You might be pleasantly surprised with how far you come. And again, that's r/getting bigger. So that covers this part on length. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to get to the girth video, so bear with me. Patreon, again, for curated content. Peak Male Physique for peers large on age that can help but are not needed. Leviathan Sups, and Amazon for Vigor. Stimulant free, best bang for your buck. Nitric oxide boosting pre-workout. This is BD signing off.